Do you want me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay. I have to say, I actually agree with Ross on this one. I think that alternatives are certainly the one that we need to look at, and we need to get people out of jail. One of the things that I was looking at when I was interim, and I looked at before, was ankle monitoring as well. So I think that's, and for pre-trial people, not just for people that are sentenced to alternatives. So I believe that that is a good thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. But I also think that in order to get it done, you have to be able to collaborate with the people in the city and the different agencies and departments. And you have to be able to sit down with them, talk to them, and get it done by having the trust of those people. And I think that may be an ingredient that might be missing.
Sure, 30 seconds.
Trust is code for who's part of the machine and who is not. That's what trust is code for who's part of the machine and who is not. If in fact you're in bed with the people that are in power, maybe they might give you some leniency or latitude and inching forward some edgy proposal. But let me tell you what I've noticed from my days on the Board of Supervisors, when the interim mayor's position and fight was actually hijacked by people in the mayor's office to what has occurred in the last several years on the Board of Supervisors. It's not a question of trust, it's a question of, do they actually tolerate dissent? Do they actually tolerate the kind of individual, the rugged individualism that made politics progressive and famous in the city, because you don't have to be like those that are in actually elected office. And this is what's missing in City Hall these days, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I get where some of the other deficiencies may be with who I may be, but I'm not going to shy away from exactly the day-to-day realities that are occurring in San Francisco, and what is undermining, I think, what is exactly what San Franciscans, I think, are in danger of letting slip away.
That's for sure.
And 30 seconds.
Actually, the 45.
40.
I would say that trust is not code, but I know there's people in the audience here who are not going to agree with me. Trust is trust, and trust is something you earn, and you earn it by behaving in a certain way and treating people with a certain way. By treating people with compassion, treating people honestly, being able to sit down with people, not interrupting people, and having a temperament that is calm enough that people feel that you're approachable. So I think that trust is something that I have always endeavored to extend to the people that I've worked with and to the people that I have served. And thank you.
I did want to follow up on the pretrial question. 70% plus of the people in custody in San Francisco County jails, or approximately 900, are pretrial and have not been sentenced. It's estimated 65% of the pretrial population doesn't qualify for bail based on the offense they've been accused of committing, and 27% can't afford the $20,000 or more in bail. How would you use or expand pretrial services to reduce the jail population? And do you have a proposal for how to address people who can't afford bail? And I'm going to go to Vicki Hennessy first.
I would say that bail reform is certainly one way to do that. But I would also say that when you look at the people in jail and the number that are pretrial, it's interesting to note that when we talk about these percentages, a lot of that has to do with the fact that we already let people out of jail, or we allow them to leave jail because we have alternatives for people that are sentenced. I would say that with the 65% and the 27% that we just talked about, certainly we would be looking for the alternatives such as ankle monitoring, such as close supervision, and making sure that the neighborhood is safe and public safety is served, while we're also serving the needs and with compassion and humanity for people that are in jail that do not have the means to bail out.
Ms. Mr. Mirkarimi?
Well, I've already referenced exactly very tangible actions that we've taken, and I'm glad that there's agreement. But the difference is that I exhibited the leadership where there hadn't been any before on this issue. And in order to push the envelope, despite resistance internally from the department and in a culture of law enforcement who is not really keen on the idea that we continue to reduce the jail population and implement alternatives to incarceration as that debate played out in front of the Board of Supervisors. It was a teaching debate. Pull it up for yourself. It, to me, was emblematic of so many other things of where San Francisco is going in the wrong direction, because it made people feel uneasy to have such a vivid discussion about some of the most poorest and disenfranchised people in the city that also happen to be incarcerated. This wasn't a shrug your shoulders kind of thing. To me, this was a tipping point kind of thing. And I will push very hard, because I love to legislate, as I did as a member of the Board of Supervisors, and I still can as a sheriff. I've legislated more in the 3 years that I've been sheriff than Mike Hennessy did in 10. And I don't believe that Ms. Hennessy ever did, and I understand. But at the same time, I also don't believe I have to just strictly kiss ass in order to get it done. Because I am elected by the people. And I think elected by the people means I have to do a better job in galvanizing the people and letting them know what is at the heart of the debate so that then the people can decide what kind of policies we want to move. If anything, I failed at that ability to galvanize at the time that we should have. And I will do a better job in making sure that we will send out that rallying call, because I believe what we're proposing will change lives, will better lives, and concurrently answer the larger question, which I look forward to getting to, about whether we need a jail or not, a replacement jail or not in San Francisco. We are at a very, very fascinating intersection in San Francisco about criminal justice, and we are moving forward. And what's going to come out of this debate is those degrees of differences if we can afford to go backwards.
Thank you. Getting to the question of rebuilding the jail. In 2005, when a proposal was introduced to rebuild the jail, there were approximately 2,200 individuals detained in the San Francisco jail system. Today, in 2015, there are approximately 1,100, or half, individuals detained in the San Francisco jail system. It's estimated 35% of the jail capacity is not being used. Do we still need to rebuild the San Francisco jail at 8th and Bryant at an estimated cost of $465 million? And I'm going to ask Vicki Hennessy to answer this first. Oh, are you first? Sure. Okay.
I am very outspoken about this reality. If anybody's ever been to the downtown jails, at the Hall of Justice at 815 Bryant, for context, County Jail number 3 exists on the 6th floor of the Hall of Justice. County Jail number 4 exists on the 7th floor of the Hall of Justice. The building's been in existence for about 52 years. It is shameful that San Francisco has allowed these jails to persist. In 2013, I did something I think very sheriffy, but counterintuitive to how people know what sheriffs do. I shut down the entire jail on the 6th floor, County Jail number 3, the first time in its 52-year history. We redistributed the jail population to the 7th floor and to our other facilities in San Bruno. The question is begged, as while we're working for one of the most rapidly declining jail populations in the United States, is, do we need a replacement jail? And I keep telling people that the answer is no. If we're then able to implement strategies that are built on the idea of thinning out the jail population, like bail reform, like expanding our authority on electronic monitoring, and even expanding our alternatives to pretrial diversion. If we're able to get our jail population down that much more, maybe 150, 200 people, and it stays that way, it obviates, it makes unnecessary the need for a placement jail. And if we have this kind of money that we can spend, then let's do something where the city is completely failing on. Dealing with the mentally ill that are around the city, that there is not a proper facility, and as sheriff, hear it from me, that as sheriff, I reject the reality that our jails become substitute for mental health hospitals. And this has been the common approach in San Francisco. No matter how warm and fuzzy these answers may be, the realities are this is the day-to-day operation. And if we can, I think, invent a different kind of facility that's not a conventional jail, but one that empowers the Department of Public Health to work with us and community organizations to deal with people that have co-occurring disorders of psychiatric conditions as well as substance abuse and not criminalize them if they haven't really conducted a crime, then we are living up to the San Francisco we know.
I worked in those jails on the 7th floor, and I agree with the fact that they were inhumane. They were terrible to work in, and I worked in them for many years. And they were dangerous for the inmates, and they were dangerous for the people that worked there. I also worked there when we had a huge degree of overcrowding. We were over 2,000 inmates, and we were shipping people out of the county because we didn't have enough space and paying tremendous amount of fines. So I have a kind of maybe a different look on this thing. This is a replacement jail. It's not a new jail. It's a replacement for the 400 cells and beds that will be lost when the Hall of Justice is torn down. I agree that it should be a very flexible facility. It should be a secure facility, and we are handling more than our share of mentally ill people in the jails because mental illness is being criminalized. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I think what we need to take a look at is using the money we get from the state and seeing if we can do a flexible type of design, something that can be used for the future if the jail population continues to go down, but will also be safe, humane, and compassionate place for people to work and to live while they're fighting their cases or they're in jail.
I'm going to allow a response, but I do want to add a secondary question or a follow-up question to the original. And it seems pretty clear that you're saying we should not rebuild the jail.
If the population comes down.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is that number? Is there a number at which you think it would be unnecessary? So is there a line that says we're not going to construct a new jail if we hit that number of the population in the county jail system?
This is going to be debatable because we're not the ones who are strictly deciding this. In fact, this decision was made years before I became sheriff, before I was elected sheriff. Years that even when Ms. Hennessy was working in the sheriff's department. This was really prompted by the earthquake breach from '89, the whole Hall of Justice is coming down. So I think that context should be made. So the whole building is going to be demolished. People should know that. And there are a number of partners in the building. So rightfully, the Department of Public Works has been doing a great job, and the controller and Department of Real Estate are doing their job of answering the question. But where the differences are vivid between us so that we don't blur the lines of what it is we're representing here, because there may have not been a lot of concrete evidence of what might distinguish us when there's an acting sheriff and the elected sheriff, is that when I returned to the sheriff's office, The proposal that was put before me was for 902 beds. That is a one-for-one replacement of county jails 3 and 4. And I immediately said, this is wrong. We are not going to do this. The jail population that I had confidence in was declining at one of the most rapid rates, and I didn't think we had to have a one-for-one replacement. It could have easily been proposed by the Lee administration and those representing his opinion that they could have reduced it, but that was never initiated. We initiated the reduction by over 30%, and fortunately, in this very interesting space, the jail population continues to drop. So we are hovering at about 1,200. Our capacity, our population today was a little less than 1,200. Our capacity is 2,450. That is our absolute capacity. I have told advocates, and I've told others, that if we were able to get 200 down more, we were able to reduce 200 down, then I think we are in the zone of being able to say no new jail. And yet when we've talked to the district attorney about this, who seems to want to capitalize on this idea of no new jail, don't forget, we're not the ones who arrest, really, or prosecute or sentence. That's the courts. This is the DA. We're the ones who manage the people that are in our care. And it is our obligation to make sure that it is humane and safe for the people that are in our custody and the people who work in the jails. And unless the other partners do their job to help answer the larger question, then it makes total sense that the conversation continues on the path that it is continuing until there is the political will in City Hall to actually step up and say, we need an alternative, and this is how we are going to live with that alternative. But that isn't happening, and that's what I'm going to continue to push.
So it sounded to me like you said 1,000. 1,000.
Or under.
Or under.
And it has to keep, it has to stay.
Stay at 1,000.
Yeah, or under.
Stabilize at 1,000 or less. Okay? Vicki Hennessy. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I understood too. So it's 1,000 and it stays at that for some time before that would happen. I will say that when I was interim sheriff and we were talking about the new jail, we had lots of discussions about what if the population goes down even lower. And I figured that would come up again because we were in just the beginning planning stages. And so I left that open in my discussions with people. And that was not something that Mayor Lee or anybody else told me to do. That's just something that I know from my experience what happens. So, the Hall of Justice, not earthquake safe. Considered a sick building as well. 425 7th Street was built in 1984, opened in 1984. Its infrastructure depends on the Hall of Justice, so whatever happens, there has to be something that's built there that supports the infrastructure of 425 7th Street, which is another jail. I'm not representing anybody's opinion but my own. And another thing to consider always in jails to keep people safe is the capacity for good classification and making sure you have enough room to have prisoners where they're safe. I see people here today who worked in the jails and they know how difficult it is when you don't have single beds for people that need single beds, when you don't have areas for people who are vulnerable and that kind of thing. So I would say once again, the planning for the jail should go forward for now, but we should also be looking at making it a facility that can be a multi-use facility. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question. We had a number from Ross Mirkarimi. Is there a number in your mind, if the jail population does drop and it is steady, is there a number in your mind that would justify not rebuilding the jail?
I have to say right now I don't have a number in my mind, but I have to also say that we're going to be increasing in population quite a bit in this city. There's going to be a large number of people coming to the city. We're building quite a bit of housing for people. It's estimated that I believe that we're going to reach 900,000. If I'm wrong, let me know. But But I also think that we're planning this jail, and you have to understand it's 5 years out. We're planning for the future. We're not planning for what's today, so we have to kind of anticipate the future. And if there can be a guarantee that it's not going to happen, then we would look at that.
It's not going to happen.
In other words, the population would not go up.
Thank you very much for both of your answers on that question. Sorry, glasses. Many men and women in San Francisco County Jail are parents. What efforts would you take as sheriff to ensure children are able to have contact with their parents when they're detained? And we start with Ross, so Vicki, Hennessy.
As far as I know, and this is something that can certainly be enhanced, there are programs right now, and I believe there's some going on right now, which I think Ross would be able to speak to better than I would, that allow children to visit their parents in jail, one-on-one. In my career in the Sheriff's Department, we always had some programs. Northern California Service League ages ago used to provide those programs. Now there's other entities providing those programs. But the other thing that I would like to look at is also the people in jail have parents, and they have family other than children. They have sisters and brothers and things like that, family members. And I'd like to see us have more programs that address the needs of the families of the people that are in jail, because when somebody goes to jail, it's a difficult time for them. If I'm a mother and my son goes to jail, or somebody else in my family is in jail, I want to be able to stay connected and know how he's doing or she's doing, or how whatever is going on. So I would want to take a look at some programs for that.
Thank you very much. And Ross,
I am passionate about a number of issues, but this issue is special for me. When I came into office, the San Francisco Sheriff's Department had the lowest visitation hours in the 9-area county, the lowest. And people probably wouldn't believe it because they believe that San Francisco is usually ahead of the game of most, but we were not. And then when I looked at the population of mothers and fathers that are incarcerated in the San Francisco Sheriff's Department, and how poor the infrastructure was in allowing for contact visits and children of the incarcerated to have more access to their parents, we radicalized, revolutionized exactly what needs to be done. And let me tell you why that this is so vital to public safety and improving public safety. In the United States, 54% of the people that are incarcerated are mothers and fathers. 54% of the over 2 million plus people that are in prisons. Every think tank, from the left to the right, is in consensus practically that there is a much higher probability that children of the incarcerated will also run afoul of the law later on.
Yeah.
We have an incredible moment here in San Francisco that with the declining jail population now gives us, I think, an opportunity to zero in on the next generation. Starting at birth, we're the only county in this state where we have started the Birth Justice Project. No longer, in that rare moment that women that are incarcerated who are expecting, will we separate them for their baby when they give birth. In fact, through the Birth Justice Project, in coordination with UCSF and San Francisco General Hospital, we've installed doulas in the women's jail, and we will have breast milk pumping stations in the women's jail so that the baby is never without benefit from breast milk. Now, my wife and I, we had our son at home, born on Webster Street, with midwives. This very issue is a very intimate issue with me. And I believe that if we really want to improve our relationship with children of the incarcerated, it starts at birth, it moves all the way up to youth with greater access. It is co-parenting classes for those that are incarcerated so that they are prepared for release and prepared for reunification. And let me tell you something, we've got jail systems from around the state who are visiting us so that they would understand even better how we're building an infrastructure around this. And it's not easy.